I want to touch on a separate aviation matter. Last week, this committee held a hearing on the January 29th DCA mid-air collision. Brigadier General Matthew Brayman, the director of the Office of Army Aviation, appeared on behalf of the Army. At the hearing, both Ranking Member Cantwell and I requested an Army memo outlining its standard operating procedures for when Army helicopters could forego broadcasting their locations and altitudes while flying near DCA Airport. The Army had earlier refused to provide the memo to my staff, despite being allowed to do so by the independent crash investigator, the NTSB. Given the opportunity to be transparent, the Army again refused to commit to providing the memo, which is entitled Automatic Dependent Broadcast Surveillance, or ADSB, Out, Off Operations in the National Airspace. So Ranking Member Cantwell and I followed the hearing with a joint letter explicitly requesting the unredacted memo. Now for the third time. We made clear to the General that he had 24 hours to provide that memo, or there would be real consequences. It's now been 5 days since the hearing, and the Army has still not provided the memo. It begs the question, what doesn't the Army want Congress or the American people to know about why it was flying partially blind to the other aircraft and to the air traffic controllers near DCA? This is not acceptable. I fully expect that, should the Army continue to refuse to provide the internal memo, this committee will exercise its full authorities to compel its production. Events that have transpired since the January crash underscore the precarious situation in the nation's airspace. Just last Friday, after the hearing, 3 flights were cleared for takeoff at DCA, while a military flyover was approaching Arlington National Cemetery. The U.S. Air Force T-38 came within just half of a nautical mile of lateral separation and as close as 200 feet of vertical separation from a Delta aircraft departing DCA for Minneapolis. The Delta flight's TCAS sounded a resolution advisory, alerting the pilots to a traffic collision and directing them to continue upwards to avoid a collision. This is far too close, seconds away from yet another disaster. The air traffic center that controls airspace around D.C. notified DCA about the flyover. That should have led to halted traffic. This serious communication breakdown is just the latest in a string of missteps that signal that the air traffic organization is under extreme stress. It is my expectation that all federal actors, when involved in any incident in the national airspace, will be forthcoming when this committee conducts its oversight to ensure flying remains the safest mode of transportation. And I want to be explicit to the Army. Every one of us here supports a strong national defense, but the Army does not have at its option ignoring the United States Senate. And if there is another accident, if another Blackhawk helicopter strikes another passenger jet and murders 67 people, because the Army refused to change its policy of turning off ADSB out, and rather than act proactively to protect people's lives, the Army chose to protect its bureaucratic ass, those deaths will be on the Army's hands. None of us want that to happen. The responsible decision for the Army to make is to provide that memo to this committee today. And again, if the Army continues to stonewall, they will face a subpoena from this committee.